All right, people. So in the early hours of this morning, we saw Anthony Yarde versus David Benavidez. Now, that's probably certainly a light heavyweight. The best I've seen David Benavidez. He looked phenomenal in there. I mean, he really did. And for him now to go and do that, put on that kind of performance, to then move up to cruiserweight, where you have to remember the gap between cruiserweight and light heavyweight. It's not like going from super middle to light heavy. It's 7 pounds. That's 25. That's nearly 2 stone in weight. So it's a big jump. So credit to him. He had a great performance. He was in there with an Anthony Yarde who fought let's just say he fought like he had a wish to get knocked out. Simple as. Anthony Yarde, I've already done a review of this fight, so we're not going to talk about the fight blow by blow. But this is more a video as to why, and I want to just kind of finish on the subject. This is more a video as to why it's so frustrating seeing Anthony Yarde, now at 34 years of age, the way he is, essentially. And what I mean by that is the way he looks to have not only stagnated, but to be really on the decline as a fighter, from what I've seen in there. Because you got to bear in mind, this is a guy who's had 2 bites the cherry before this fight, going for world titles. And he was in there against, a faded Sergey Kovalev, it's fair to say. He boxed his way to a decision over Later Alvarez. Prior to that, he was knocked out quite badly by Later Alvarez the fight before. And Kovalev was definitely not what he used to be. He wasn't the Kovalev who fought Bernard Hopkins, where if that Kovalev had turned up against Anthony Yarde in 2019, God help him. He wasn't that Kovalev anymore. He was a Kovalev who'd been beaten by Andre Ward twice, whether you agree with the first fight or not, but he was stopped by Andre Ward in the rematch. Again, as I said, he was stopped badly by Later Alvarez. So he wasn't himself. He wasn't the crusher that we were used to seeing. He still was beating Anthony Yarde soundly in that fight. Yarde then, came on strong, nearly got rid of Sergey Kovalev, but he didn't. He lacked experience. It happens, right? It happens, I'm not going to begrudge him that. He then goes in there against Yarde Wtf almost 3 years ago now. And the problem there was, not even in the fight, but in the run-up to it, he was following the same trajectory and path that he was following in the run-up to his Kovalev fight, albeit he had Lyndon Arthur in there, who was the best win on his resume. But you're thinking, this isn't really setting you up, especially considering you're going in there with, maybe older fighters, but still extremely good fighters. You're not going in there with older fighters who are, seen as a champion who, is in decline or, is not that good. You're going in there with extremely formidable opponents who are still performing at the highest level even then. So you're thinking you need to be amply prepared. You need to essentially have the acid tests, because you think about it like this. Anthony Yarde, throughout the course of his pro career, what kind of crises has he had in fights that he's come through? None. Because he's only ever gone at the lowest of the low, and I mean the lowest of the low. Lyndon Arthur, who was a solid fringe world level opponent, but again, he's not the biggest puncher. He's more a boxer. He's going to outbox. He's not really going to hurt you. And then world level. That's been Yarde's whole career. Yarde, I've gained a reputation over the years as being a harsh critic of Anthony Yarde. And I guess that reputation is somewhat justified because I have been very critical of him. But understand that I am someone who was very praising of Anthony Yarde very early on in his career. I picked him to beat Sergey Kovalev. It's one of my picks I'm not too proud of, but I take the L on that one. And the reason why I picked him was because I thought that, for once, I would actually agree with Tunde that maybe timing was everything. I thought Yarde was talented. I saw Anthony Yarde just before he fought on the Liam Smith and the Alvarez card. I forget who he fought, but it was way back in the day. And he looked so talented. And you find out that he had next to no amateur fights. And you're thinking, oh, wow, we've got something here. This isn't like a Fabio Wardley who looked crude from day dot and obviously improved. Yarde looked polished. And you're thinking, we've got something here. Let's manage them right. Let's see what they do. And it was always, we'll take this fight maybe against a Frank Buglioni, but we won't fight a Jose Burton. Or we're going to fight, an unknown guy with 1 defeat who God only knows who we beat because, good Lord. And it's just rinse and repeat. It's fight no hoper after no hoper after no hoper. And if anything, when he was fighting these no-hopers, some of them were being fed to Joshua Buatsi, and Joshua Buatsi was going through them like a hot knife goes through butter. Anthony Yarde was going round with some of these guys. And you're thinking, right, come on, he's stagnating a bit. get a move on. Move him up the levels. Anthony Yarde was a pro for what? 6 years before he fought Dex Spellman, of all people, an area level fighter. That was just before he fought Lyndon Archer. He's fighting Dex Spellman, an area level fighter, after what, 6 years as a pro? It's insane. And you're looking at this and you're thinking, that's not Frank Warren. Frank Warren does not move his fighters like that. Frank Warren is brilliant at matchmaking his fighters. Sometimes they take L's, but they come back. Daniel Dubois is a prime example. Frank Warren is a brilliant matchmaker for his opponents. Absolutely phenomenal. It's one of many. Frank Warren is an exceptional promoter. Say what you want to say about him, but he's an exceptional promoter, and he's exceptional when it comes to matching his talent. He's a great eye for talent as well. And you're thinking, this can't be Frank Warren. Surely not. It's not something Frank Warren would do. It goes against what he'd do with his fighters. And then we start hearing from his trainer and manager, Tunde Ajayi, oh, I got him an Adidas sponsor. Okay, but you can't get him an opponent who can actually, fight? Really? And then you're starting to see where the problems are, to the point where it's just rinse and repeat. No hoper after no hoper after no hoper after no hoper. World title fight, no hoper. Lyndon Archer, no hoper. World title fight. That's no way to build a fighter. It's nothing. It's no way to build a fighter. There's talk that he barely spars. What the hell? I'm sorry, what? You can look as slick as you want. You can have that Philly shell, that wannabe Floyd Mayweather style, throw those pitter-patter punches like he did against David Benavidez and hope to catch him with something, but it ain't gonna work. You're gonna need a plan B, a plan C. If you think of Alexander Usyk, those first 3 rounds against Tyson Fury in the first fight, he had a game plan. He was hitting Fury to the body. He was landing the left hand. He was doing well. Fury adjusted. Fury brought in the uppercut. He was winning a couple of rounds. He stunned Alexander Usyk, I think it was around 6. Alexander Usyk then adjusted. He came back into the fight. You see what I mean? The real great fighters, and bear in mind, it's not just the fighters who can adjust, it's the corner who, throughout the course of camp, would have had him, right, this is what we're going to do if he does this, but if he does this, we're going to do this, and we're going to do, they have the plan B. The plan for Anthony Yarde last night was, okay, yeah, you're taking shots left, right, and centre. You've got no head movement. You've got no defence. You're taking a beating. But I'm going to give you, you know what the advice I'm going to give you? Lions in the camp. Yeah, this isn't Les Brown's self-help, mate. This is boxing. Man needs some proper advice, like take your head off centre line. Again, I'm not a trainer. I can tell him that. He wasn't moving his head at all. Take your head off centre line. Sit on your shots. If you're going to have to take one, so be it. But at least try and deter him, because you got nothing to deter this guy. And he's making you work. He's hitting you hard. He's draining your gas tank. Move. Take a step out. Take your head off centre line. Move around the ring a little bit more. Use your legs. Tuck up the guard. Simple things. Lions in the camp for 7 rounds straight. Oh yeah, that's really going to win you a fight, isn't it? So that's what we had from Anthony Yarde. And this is why it's been so frustrating. You know, when Anthony Yarde lost to Kovalev, it was a real case of, okay, what next? They announced the Lyndon Archer fight. I think originally he was meant to fight Lyndon Archer in early 2020. We obviously know why that didn't happen. But when he fought him in 2020, I think it was December time, that was behind closed doors. Lyndon Archer, for some reason, it's not a great fight, the first fight. It's not really a great fight, the first fight, to be fair. But if you did go back and watch it, you'll notice that Lyndon Archer was not really throwing his right hand. He's neglecting to throw the right hand for whatever reason. I don't actually think it was injured. I think he just maybe he didn't feel comfy throwing. I don't know. But Yarde, the commentators picked up on that. And because obviously it's behind closed doors, there's only a few people there, someone in Team Yarde got wind of that and had to tell Tunde, oh, by the way, the commentator said he's not throwing the right hand. It's only then he starts saying it to Yarde, oh yeah, he's not throwing the right hand. It's like, what? And at that point, I was like, get rid of him. Yarde at that point would have been about 28, 29. So just enough time to be able to change things up, get a new trainer in, and maybe learn a few things. Maybe get a bit more experience and get a trainer who can show you things, who can actually, train you hard, and will actually say, all right, this level of opponent's not going to cut it. You're past that. You're a big boy now. Let's fight this guy or let's fight that guy. Someone who you're probably going to win, like an Isaac Chilemba, but he's going to... Look at Moses Atelma. Moses Atelma's beaten everyone who's been put in front of him. Now he's fighting the Jermaine Franklin. Is Jermaine Franklin a good fighter? Not really. He's solid, but he's durable. That's what he needs. Moses Atelma didn't have a crazy amount of amateur fights. He only had like 20 something. I interviewed him way back before his pro debut and he told me that. So I'm kind of like, damn, he's been around, but like he's not an experienced amateur. But you see what I mean about matchmaking. And I thought after that he needs to leave Tunde. He doesn't leave Tunde. You're like, okay, why? Oh, lions in the camp, all this. Oh, because that's a reason. Lions in the camp, that's the reason for everything. That's the answer for everything. Your car broke down, lions in the camp. More like kittens. And after that, that was really it. He took that beating against Beterbiev, and he's really never been the same since then. After he lost to Beterbiev, you saw a noticeable deterioration in Anthony Yarde, because he had 2 fights after that. He didn't look particularly good in them. The Ralph Vilkans fight, where he really didn't look good, and Vilkans goes and gets stopped in a round only a couple of weeks ago over some unknown Canadian guy. And yeah, as I said, it really doesn't look good. And I think Yarde right now, I don't know. I think that's frustrating. I think Yarde should have been a world champion. He should have been. He might not have been a dominant world champion. He might not have been a long reigning world champion, but I think he should have been a world champion if he was trained properly. In terms of management, he's got the Adidas deal. He's a multi-millionaire. He's happy. I'm sure he's all right. But still, he leaves Frank Warren when Frank Warren gets it big with the Saudis and then has to come crawling back to him a year later. It's like that scene out of The Simpsons where Homer quits, but he has to go back to the power plant. And he's like, I came here to get my job back. True there. Frank Warren standing there when he comes out of the pit. Come crawling back now, have you? It's literally like that. And probably Frank Warren gave him a picture of him that says, don't forget, you're here forever. But it should never have happened, because it's ridiculous. Why would you leave a promoter who's just hit it big and think you can go elsewhere and just, get the bag? You're not a Chris Eubank Jr. or a Conor Benn, no offence, in terms of popularity. You're not a Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua. The similarities to Anthony end at your name. That's it. So, I don't know. And I think now, if Yarde continues his career, he can leave Tunde. He should have done it years ago. But you can leave him. But as I said last night, that's like closing the barn door once the horse has already bolted. It's too little too late. You're not going to teach an old dog new tricks. It's gone. Done. He's set in his ways. And the problem now is, I think, if he wasn't damaged before, he is certainly damaged now. Certainly. And I think he's been mollycoddled so much over the last decade by Tunde, in camp and outside of camp, that there's just, like, for me, I'm just looking at Yarde thinking, if you went into, say, Ben Davison, or you went into Shane McGuigan, or Grant Smith, or God forbid Peter Fury, they're not gonna be your best friends. They're not gonna tell you what you want to hear and just, oh yeah, it's all good, you're perfect. No, they're gonna actually train you proper, and they're gonna tell you some hard truths, and they're probably gonna make you spar hard. And if you're not damaged before, well, you are now, or you certainly will be after that. So for me, I think Anthony Yarde is done. It's a shame, but he has only himself to blame at the end of the day. I have said it once and I'll say it again about Tunde Ajayi. If Tunde is this wonderful trainer which he claims himself to be, why is there not a list of fighters coming to train with you? You're based in London. You're in Cannon Town, I believe, so it's not like it's far. It's not like you're not in Central. It's East London. It's not far from Central. It's literally, Cannon Town is fairly central. So why is there not a lot of fighters coming to train with you? Why? It's been like that for years. You never hear Tunde Ajayi with trainers lining up to train with him. Never. Why is that? There's a reason. So those are my thoughts. Let me know in the comment section below what you guys think about that. For now, I'll leave it there. Hope you enjoyed it. Smash the like button, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. Until next time. Peace.